Hey everybody, Ben here. Welcome back to another video. I almost played D4. We're playing the London. And we're playing against G6. So, this will be a fun one. All right. But welcome back, everybody. We are playing the London, and our opponent is playing some hyper modern stuff where they don't actually move any of their like central pawns quite yet. Because yeah, they might go D65 or they might do something else. We're just going to go on with our normal setup of C3, or should we? Maybe knight to D2 is a little bit more accurate. Trying to avoid using the C pawn yet. C3 is kind of like one of those moves that's not really doing too much. So it's hard to say if it's, or how effective it is. And what I want to do right now, I just want to play H4, H5. I'm getting a really big temptation to do it. Let's play knight gf3 because h4, h5 is still going to be there at the end of the day. d6. Okay, now they're asking for it. h4. So these moves are always nice to consider in the London. And you're willing to give up in exchange for playing these moves too. But if we can just play h5 anyways, then that's very, very nice for us. First off, we do have ideas like h6. This isn't out of the question by any means, because h6 forces their bishop to go somewhere uncomfortable. And I think that's the case here. After h6, bishop f6, we can consider something like g4 as well, to go g5. Yeah, let's go h6. Normally, I would want to keep the option open. And maybe we can with something like g4 immediately. Yeah, that actually looks quite tempting. Let's go g4 immediately, because now h6 does have the threat of g5, if bishop f6. Here, I think... Well, now we can't take, because the rook is hanging. So I think we just move back. Oh, maybe their argument here is that if we move back immediately, they can actually take on d4, because our rook is actually hanging. So let's take once, and then we'll play bishop to g3. So we're being very aggressive here, but I think it'll lead to a much more interesting game. So, hey, that's why we're doing it. So now that they played this, they are no longer attacking the fella in the corner. So we can play h6 here, which I like a lot. b2 is hanging, so we should probably be a little careful about that. We could play knight to g5, attacking e4. Losing b2, or we could play knight to e5, something along these veins or these lines, where we don't actually lose b2. But we do have to be careful about this knight randomly getting trapped. I don't think it does, though. Let's do that. Let's go knight e5. So any queen d6 or queen d5 stuff, we can get a tempo somehow. Either bishop c4 if queen d5, or if queen d6, we have knight f7. Our bishop's covered. So we're trying to be super aggressive, and I think that's kind of fun. So let's keep it up. All right, so now they take on h5. I'm just going to take with the pawn. Rook makes sense as well, but pawn facilitates a potential h6. I could also go g5, funnily enough. g5 so I can take with my queen. It's not completely stupid. Knight f5 does cause problems, though. If we take, then they can take on g3, and they win our knight. So that's probably not a good idea. And because of that, I don't think we should move our g-pawn. We should actually take with the rook. So keeping that in mind, I think, is extremely important. Which is good. I feel like we've done good here. And now we have moves like bishop c4 coming. Attacking f7. And they'll have to defend it somehow. If they play knight c6, I'm not really too afraid of it. Yeah, so here... This feels really sketchy. Right? Just because, like, they don't really have development, but neither do we. So I was looking at bishop c4 first. But then they take. And it's unclear if we get anything for it. So maybe we should just move away. Like knight c4. I think knight c4 is like the only move anyways. Yeah, let's play knight c4. If we have to play it, then so be it. We can actually go queen e2 and castle long, though. I'm struggling to find problems with this. I kind of want to play c3 instead here, though. So now f5 doesn't attack b2. And also we can move our queen, say, to b3 or to a4 to castle long. So we're saving ourselves a bit of a headache there. Now queen e2 is probably best. They're attacking g4. We could also consider bishop h3 followed by g5. That's not stupid. Bishop h3. They castle, and then we go g5. So there's f5. Which is important. That might stop us a little bit. So maybe queen e2 is just the safest choice. And then castling. This is a very unusual position, but I think that's nice, right? This is not a London position that you see every day. So, I don't know. I like it. Knight c6. Now e4 looks like it's hanging. And I can't find an easy refutation. The problem is their queen's also hit. And if they end up trading a bunch, there's no discoveries with the knight that actually bother me here. At least that I can see. So I think taking on e4 is very effective. Yeah. They can take on d1 a bunch. At the end of the day, all we have to worry about after taking on d1, taking on d1, taking on d1, taking on d1, is after some knight move discovery thing, that we don't allow some sort of like bishop f3 check at the end. So for example, knight d4 takes, bishop takes. We don't play something silly. Like knight to d2 is fine, for example, though. Yeah, here, there's knight to d2 as well. This knight to d2, or this knight to d2. I think both are... We should be a little careful that this knight doesn't get like trapped somehow, but I don't think it does. So this knight to d2 feels very, very safe. Yeah, I like this move. If rook to d8, getting some activity, I'll just go king to c1 and ask them what they're going to do about this pawn. They could defend it with... yeah, so we do have to, of course, watch out for bishop takes e4. That's a threat. Is it a threat? What if I take on h7 here? Is it a threat? Because bishop takes e4, all of a sudden there's bishop takes a6 check, right? And if king moves, then we can take on g7. Check, we don't really care. We just move out of the way. That actually looks quite strong. And that's not easy to answer, is it? I'm going to take on h7. And I'm willing to trade this guy for this guy, because that's essentially what's happening. And not only is it a trade of those two, but we're actually winning a pawn, because we took on h7, of course. So this looks like a completely winning position. We're up 2 pawns now. Bishop takes e4, maybe the most natural move. And bishop takes a6 with check. Maintains material, and then also wins a piece. Yeah, so taking on g7 here. We're attacking the knight. Bishop f3, we just move out of the way. And the problem is now their bishop and their knight are attacked. They have to move one, and then they lose the other. Bishop b7 doesn't solve anything. We take it, and then take on e7. And then they probably will defend the c7 pawn, but we just take it anyways, and that's completely winning. So yeah, this game looks like a win. The only hope they had is if my pawn was on c2 instead and I played like knight c4, allowing a mate. But, of course, that's a bit silly. So, yeah, we'll take on... We could take on c7 first. And then just move away, actually, funnily enough. Because after we take on c7, they have to go king a8. And I just want some sort of like check like this that wins the game. But we should probably just take the bishop. I don't really care about this rook. All I want is to give mate, and bishop to f4 and bishop b7 will do exactly that. I don't see any other response. Yeah, so here should probably just take the rook. And then probably take on f6 and rook g8 will be mate at the end of it. I just need to move the bishop out of the way. I don't really care about any of those pawns. If you see a way to checkmate, then you don't really have to worry about them. So yeah, checkmate. Good game. So that was interesting. Maybe the use of trying to go crazy on them was not very smart, but hey, it was fun. So I think that's also pretty important too. But let's look at the game, shall we? So h4 is not really the best. So after knight f6 and h5, maybe the problem here is that they haven't actually castled yet, right? So for example, if they played knight f6, h4, and then like castle or something, now I think h5 is a lot more acceptable. And yeah, exactly. It looks like there's full compensation here after takes, and it's giving knight h2 to try and take the pawn here. Now the engine's changing its mind a little bit that it's less of a good idea, but this is a common sacrifice in these lines. But our opponent didn't really stop h5, and I think that because of that, like, they have to play knight e6 f6 here. It's a natural move and it stops the plan, and since they haven't castled, that's probably their best bet. But hey, yeah, so I played g4, which I thought was extremely interesting. e5, I'm not sure if I made any mistakes here. Nope. Again, bishop g3, they might be able to take on d4 twice, and it looks like that's actually the case. So takes, and bishop takes d4 it's actually saying castles here. Interesting. c3. I guess this diagonal is just causing us some problems, right? Rook e8, bishop e2 to like castle long. It's actually just really hard to do that. Wow, interesting. Good to know. Okay, so d takes e5, d takes e5. And all of a sudden this bishop b5 check is a good move. I was worried of c6, but after h6 this is really strong. Interesting. Because I was considering h6 here, but I thought, okay, just bishop f6 and then what? But wow, this actually is, yeah, here it works after bishop e5 check. So why not h6 immediately then? So bishop f6, sure. Okay, wait. I gotta find this out. So c6, h6, bishop f6. What's going on here? There's knight e4 where there's not before. Okay, gotcha. And knight takes f6 is a colossal threat. Okay, that's really interesting. I would not have seen that. So bishop g3 is pretty natural. I thought knight e5 was best. It says knight d4, and I thought maybe they're like, they can try for something after bishop takes d4, but realistically, that's a very ugly move to make, right? Plus they have like e3 here, but apparently this is playable and slightly better for white. Okay. Yep, that's exactly why these lines can be fun. So yeah, taking on h5, I didn't need to do. I could have played bishop c4. But I am happy to see that any of my ideas, for example, of taking on h5 like this, or g5 could run into some problems here. There's less of an advantage. For example, even after g5, looks like it says knight g6, but knight f5 looked reasonable to me as well. But then there's this bishop b5 check move again, or after c6, bishop c4 this time. And there's problems on f7. So these lines are so crazy. Okay. Other than that, it feels like we played pretty okay, equal material, and then of course we were able to win e4, and the game kind of just finished after that. Like my opponent kind of just collapsed. So that's kind of, I think, where we can end the analysis. Anyways, I do hope you guys enjoyed. That was an interesting one. So I'm sure you did. But I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye, guys.